Let's take a look and drive the updated Tesla Model 3. They have been dominating the market in this segment here for years. Now, newly arriving the VW ID.7, the Ioniq 6 and the BYD Seal, also in Europe. The Model 3 Highland, that's the nickname for this update here. And let's see if there can only be one, this one here still. Here you can see in the front updated headlamps with a slimmer daytime running light now. This is also one of two new colors. This is called Stealth Grey and the other one is called Ultra Red in the multi-layer paint. They have updated the aerodynamics of this vehicle. I mean, it was already very aerodynamic before. Now CD value at 0.219. And for example, some updates, like the air is being flowing from the hood then also to the side and so on. And also updated wheels. The compound is now optimized for less rolling resistance. And that's why also the top speed has been reduced to around 200 kilometers an hour or 125 miles an hour. These ones here are the 19-inch wheels. Also pretty cool styling here with this outside aerodynamic ring in the contrasting black color. 18-inch would be standard actually. The 18-inch wheels actually are a little bit lighter and that's why they would also be a little bit better than for the overall efficiency. 4.72 meters is the overall length. Since the spoilers has also been changed, it's actually a tiny bit longer. Turning indicators here in the front, underneath the daytime running light. Turning indicators in the rear. You can see one of my big criticism points is gone now. Before they were super tiny, now they are very well visible. And also new tail lamps overall with his signature, and they're also way wider. And you can see they are actually on the trunk cover here now, autumn times. And here, when I open the trunk, then you can see they lift up together with it. That's very interesting, right? Talking about this one here, this is 600 liters because, well, there's a fairly good opening here. And then we also have a good length in there. But even more important, we have so much more space even underneath like this, and that even fits a suitcase. Quick measurements between the wheel arches, 95 centimeters or 37 inches, and the length here, the normal one, is about 1 meters and 7 or 42 inches. And of course you can also fold the seats, 1/3, 2/3 split. You have to fold them from the rear though. They are still the rear-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive models. 6.1 seconds for the rear-wheel drive model in the acceleration figure. All-wheel drive model, one motor per axle as we have here, is 4.4 seconds in the acceleration. Charging ports here on the driver's side in the back part, and 170 kilowatt peak for the small battery, 250 kilowatt peak for the bigger battery here in our all-wheel drive model. And that means 24 minutes or 22 minutes for the bigger battery, 10 to 80% state of charge at the V3 supercharger. And there are, yes, two battery sizes, around 60 kilowatt hours or around 80 kilowatt hours. How much exactly also depends where the car is being built. If you, for example, have then a US model or if you get one in Europe and so on. Dual insulation now also for the rear windows. You can also see and feel that here. So that has been added here also with the facelift. Overall, they promise 30% less wind noise while driving. We're going to find out if that's actually true. And with all the efficiency things in aerodynamics, they say also 5% more efficient overall than it was before. And already it was quite efficient before. That is also something that stands out with Tesla. I mean, some have other advantages, but Tesla has always been very efficient as for aerodynamics and also the efficiency of the electric motors. Opening the doors, there has always been a pro and con discussion about these door handles, flush, integration and so on, aerodynamics, but some say it's not really practical, and I have to agree, they're not the most practical door handles. Then frameless doors, also dual insulation already at the front. And then here, instead of doors, you already see the new ambient lighting integration. Soft touch here, then there's the bright interior. You can either get the bright one or the dark one. And it is a very minimalistic interior, even more minimalistic here now with that facelift. You can see no stalks at the steering wheel and so on. And the most significant change to me is definitely here. New seats, they're taken from Model S or from the Model X. They are the wider ones, also with perforation inside. The whole interior is vegan, so no animal material is being used. That's of course forward thinking and also very consistent. And the overall impact on the environment is also lower. Then you can see wow, this is a new comfort experience indeed. So it's way more comfortable than the outgoing seats. It's also especially to the Model 3 because the Model Y with some upgrades is not receiving these seats here yet, at least. Headroom with 189 or 6'2" underneath this fixed glass roof is actually quite okay. And I have the feeling, well, there's one thing, you know, when you're really tall, then here this front line begins quite low. So you have somewhat a caged in feeling here, especially to the front. However, these new seats improve that a little bit because when you put them all the way low, and they also, let's say, enhance you a little bit better than the ones before. So I feel this criticism point has also been improved definitely with these new seats. And indeed, it has a completely different comfort experience. So yeah, so far the seating comfort was one of our main criticism points about the Model 3. Now you have to ask yourself why you would need the Model S. Mainly for the air suspension, but Tesla says that the riding comfort is also now better with these wheels and the new setup and so on. Is that true? We're going to find out very soon. Interior cockpit overview. This 15.4-inch screen has smaller bezels, so these smaller black frames around, and new steering wheel, zoom more details to that. And the lower part, as we know, 2 inductive charging pads, so it both works both ways. Alcantara covering, and the only thing is they are not cooled, so the phone gets hot there. Steering wheel itself has a very sporty and small form. Material quality, first impression, also quite good. Have to see how it is long term. Then here the turning indicators are now on the steering wheel like in the Model S or Model X in their updates, and there are no stalks here anymore at all. And on the screen I turn it to the dark mode now. Here when I use the turning indicators you can see how you have these additional helping cameras from the side that you can see there's no one in the blind spot when you're turning actually. On the dashboard here now, this fabric covering is actually quite cool and cozy. Here also in this gray fabric in the bright interior. And new ambient lighting where you can easily also change the color in the display just like this. You can open everything also from here. Phone connection, however, only Bluetooth. They are still reluctant as for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, although most people want that. Camera system is always quite impressive. The one we saw already, this is then the rear view camera. It's pretty dark and rainy outside, obviously, yeah, Highlands weather, isn't it? And the seat heating or seat cooling is activated in the lower part, and also the climate control right here. You can also use the voice input, of course. Temperature 20 degrees. Middle console, like this. Cup holders also somewhat adaptive, and in front even more space. The armrest, also good build quality, folding it up, even more space. Rear seats, let's take a look. Also new seats with the perforation on the inside. Cooled seats available for the front seats, but heated seats also available for the rear seats. And it's all standard. You don't have to go for some options and then suddenly the price is double as high. That's what I find cool about Tesla. You only configure the exterior color and then here bright or black, and that's basically it. In the rear, you don't sit too well actually. Look at here the angle of my knees. This is also seats I would be driving. It does exactly fit somehow. Headroom is actually not a problem. I mean, here, yes, but I have to put my head then underneath this panoramic roof. Then it works also for tall adults. Middle seat, there's no middle tunnel using that EV platform. I mean, you can drive with 5 tall adults. It won't be the best experience, but it's actually quite okay. The material of the seats here is also pretty cool. Slick then on the inside part. You can fold down this. This is actually very interesting, right? Here, this integrated head restraint, which you can also use to, I mean, if you look at that, some might say that it has a special form which resembles a human body part. What do you think? Then you fold it down. You have also adaptive cup holders like this. Yeah, maybe it would be better when it folds a little bit more down, but overall it's okay. And also new 8-inch screen then here for the rear seats. You can control digitally then the air vents. If that's really needed, I think that is left up for discussion. But what's pretty cool is that you have then here also YouTube access, different apps, and you can watch, for example, Autogefühl. Why not? Oh, this is directly a suggestion in here, for example, of our Smart 3 review. And the cool thing is here with this new sound system, When I play the videos here in the rear, then there's more sound coming from the rear. 9 or 17 speakers. The quality of the screen, by the way, is really excellent. Oh, and these USB-C chargers in the rear, 65 watt each. Pretty strong. Alright, let's go to the open road. There's a lot of water on there. I think it's a good test actually, because here then with these, adverse conditions, we can even better test what this vehicle is made of. First of all, suspension, when it's here like a little bit bumpier, or here these holes from the sewage systems and so on. It is definitely better than before, but it doesn't make it the softest or most comfortable suspension. As I said, there may be more favorable suspension setups and so on, but here I think with this new tire setup here, I'm fine with that. Do you get used to the turning indicators? Yeah, actually quite quickly, especially because when you are turning and then you straighten the steering wheel again, probably at some point I can show that to you again, then it gets deactivated automatically the same way as the manual stall column would jump back or so, and then it's also fine. Then you don't need to do that much like this. And of course this overdrive model even quicker in the acceleration, so you can make some nice jumps then also in the city driving when you need to turn to do it quickly, or some quick overtaking maneuver and so on. This new EU law, by the way, that you have this speed warning already when you exceed 1 kilometers an hour. Here you can just press this symbol here, where I have the 50 for example, and then it is also muted, so it's also a quick way to deactivate that. Even just slightly pressing the throttle goes super quick. Of course, here in the driving settings, you can always change it a little bit. For example, here to the chill acceleration, if the acceleration is just too much for you. And that can be a good thing also for efficiency, for example, because then you're not maybe tempted to accelerate that hard. That off one pedal driving here, just off the throttle, and when I need more braking, then I really apply the brakes. There's a difference here with Tesla. The other manufacturers rather have the approach that they don't make any difference between just letting go of the throttle and hitting the brake for the recuperation. With Tesla it's different. When you hit the brake, then there's also the real brakes being applied, and the recuperation happens only when you lift the throttle. You have to know that. With the other manufacturers, they have this different philosophy where you can do both and just pick your driving style then. But here you really need to use the one pedal driving with the Tesla. I think the overall combination gives you a very smooth driving feeling, from that steering setup here, from the new wheels and the installation. Everything feels smoother, more premium, just more elaborate, and I think it's a huge step. Actually, it is almost feeling like a new generation of this vehicle. And the seating comfort here, now I could also imagine driving a long way here in the Model 3. Before, I have to say, I wouldn't have taken a long road trip in that one when you're really tall, because the smaller seats that were there before, especially a problem for tall adults, definitely. And we're getting now, bit by bit, towards the German motorway, the Autobahn, to see more about that noise insulation there. And although it is actually really raining heavily today, and there's wind and everything, and this typical autumn all around the place, it's still reasonably silent in here. You also hear how the raindrops are falling on that roof. These panoramic roofs here, by the way, you see they are tinted, so it's not like the heat would come in like through the side window, but still people tend to have their roofs wrapped in, maybe like in Texas or something, really hot states and so on, just to make it even more reflective. And I mean, at some point, a cover would be good, and also instruments or the head-up display, it would be good to have it. Yes, design-wise it's cleaner, but at least one of the things, instruments or head-up display, would still be good. As for this autopilot feature, here, pressing once, there's the normal cruise control. Pressing twice, then I have the autopilot activated. You can also change that just one click activates the autopilot. Let's see here in the traffic what it does actually when I also take my hands off the steering wheel, when there's a warning coming and so on. So at the moment, the distance to the car in front of me is being kept and hopefully would not run onto the vehicle. And also steering is overtaken. See it here, goes a little bit more straight like this. So far, actually quite smooth. Now rainy acceleration 50 to 100. Plop, that's it. Wow, super quick, and also no wheel spin at all or something. So that was pretty impressive. Yeah, that's why you get the all-wheel drive model. Of course, the standard range model also has a quick acceleration, and in most cases it will be enough. It's always a price thing, of course, because the standard range model is such a good price-performance ratio than overall on the market. Now at 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, it is, considering the outside conditions, once again, relatively silent in here. So I don't have to raise my voice that much. That's actually a pretty cool thing. So yeah, I'm really glad they have improved, especially on that issue there. And the overall compact feeling of the vehicle and the sporty character, yeah, really makes you feel at home also driving motorway. Then new feature here, you see this very small lamp here, this red lamp. It's not that large, not that visible, but it is a blind spot monitor, which you can better see. Once again here, there we go. And that was also one thing that was missing before. I think it could be a little bit better visible, I feel, but I'm glad that it's there now, you know. So and then you also have this additional camera view here. I told you earlier, when you hit the turning indicator, this is another blind spot warning, so to speak. So yeah, I mean, overall a good package now. As for the assistance systems, maybe that lamp could have been a little bit larger, or you could maybe also use the ambient lighting for that, for a larger scale. That would also be possible. And one more lane change here when we are at higher speeds. Good control over the vehicle, really nice. And although we have these really unpleasant conditions outside here, feels very safe and good to control. I like that about the vehicle, especially in driving. Now the big question is this one here or the BYD Seal. We had that recently in our test. So the seats in the Seal were, to me, maybe a little bit more comfortable, but Leah, for example, says that she finds these seats in the Model 3 better, but that is not like the crucial difference now. Both drive very, very well. Things you do feel is that the Seal has more classic controls, also like turning indicator and so on, but Tesla has their software more dialed in. The Seal at this moment here, the recent models we get in Europe, they have a lot of software bugs still. So, and Tesla have their thing mainly dialed. So I don't feel the autopilot system is the best on the market, especially the Europe. I always hear that it should work better in the US than on the European models. As regulation also about the data that was already collected. So I feel they're not leading as for assistance systems, but the new brands that are emerging here on the market, all coming from China, they don't have their software dialed yet. So there you know that the Tesla system, all of the stuff is actually working, and you're not having like beeping stuff all over the place. It used to be different, like many years ago there, maybe with Tesla at that point. But here you feel that everything is more dialed, and so you feel you get a more finished product definitely here with the Model 3. So with all these changes here and also a little bit more comfort and so on, definitely, especially at that price point, one of the best in the segment without doubt. So on our trip here today, with outside, by the way, 10 degrees Celsius, around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, we still could score some nice and decent economy. So we had motorway, 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, city traffic and so on, but also some accelerations. That was a little fun, yeah. So we could score some 16 kilowatt hour on 100 kilometers. That's 4 miles per kilowatt hour, meaning a real range of 500 kilometers or 320 miles. I think pretty decent